At this lovely time, we have at the very least 30% of our 5D vibing people. It's between mystics and educators, functional adults. The Enlightenment Soul Age group is and involves people who are completely functional adults emotionally. So that means they have relationship with the full spectrum of their emotions in their body. Also means that they're able to maintain what is called a ventral vagal nervous system state, meaning social engagement. And that's because of integration of the brain. Even if they have emotional triggers, we all do, the charge states, their child parts, there's different ways. The psychoeducators of my trauma-informed educational courses have made it clear we all have them. The more abuse or neglect, obviously, in a situation, the more likely it is to not only have charge states, but also a level of trauma memory. And trauma memory is actually fragmented, and there's heartbreak, gut-wrench, torn apart feelings. So people who have childhood trauma in this way, they actually are very overwhelmed with emotions, so much so that it's like tsunamis. And in fact, there's the dysregulated and modulated embodied selves, those groups of people, before they can move into a restorative embodied self, which is our mammalian heritage. It's the right of you as a human, and really it's the composure of a human, meaning how we're made. So the good trauma-informed experts explain a lot of new data that unfortunately some old-fashioned experts don't agree with, because apparently they don't believe in maybe biology, the scientific methodology. They're still building empirical data. So like Stephen Porges with the polyvagal theory, he's still doing research, and Wikipedia continues to have this thing, it's unproven. So you know how people who have a leader who's not a good psychoeducator, they will be informed of how it's silly, the whole compassion-based therapy stuff, and they will go and run with it. Why? Because as we learned from Patrick Tiahan, who is a childhood trauma survivor, and he's now a therapist who helps people, hurt people who hurt people could do the work, but they don't. And then there's the part of not noticing how when you wake up in the morning and you're taking a shower, or when you go to the grocery store and somebody looks at you weird, or in the shower, you're like, oh, I'm thinking of that coworker who's like pissing me off. So those reactions when charged are actually a charge. They're called not your emotional maturity. 5D mystics, we don't have the anger to hurt our loved ones. That's the entire oversoul. So here's my mystics. My mystics, you are the group of people who intuitively have built compassion beyond reason. The ones who have come on in at this point and out of their shame cycle, which is not pleasant. So out of their heartbreak, gut wrench, torn apart, and unfamiliarity with the depth of beauty of emotions. That's where we're at right now. So we do a little bit of this and that on all the episodes to discuss how it's amazing to be a human being. We have human experiences. So Enlightenment Soul Age group is not the spirituality soul age group. It's beyond it. People who are only in the spirituality soul age group will have a different walk of life. And that's where life, not a competition, not a race. You do you, we do us. Meaning any person does their own self, and you get to choose what level of personal development you want to have. So if you get okay with waking up in the morning and yelling about your co-worker because the movies make it look cool and normal, and you don't like to hear a trauma-informed educational person, because then there's the good therapists again who are out there trying to do their bit, but I'm not that. I'm a mentor, content creator, consultant, a lot of different titles, but a podcast host. Particularly, this is the fun part with the videos, going to get even more fun, but we are learning how to do us the grown-up way, to be yourself. To know that if you twitch your nose to be you, there's a trauma wound, an attachment wound. Means that your body didn't feel safe to be itself. So you're not in your safe haven, secure base. You're not a mature emotionally or mentally speaking yet, because you can only be mentally mature when you're working with left and right. Your verbal is the left, and it breaks things down. Thank you, Daniel Siegel, for this explanation of how the mind works. The right is where you sit with unknown uncertainty, and it allows all to sit, even that which seems to quote-unquote contrast. I say quote-unquote because a 5D mystic or 5D educator doesn't contrast. We're able to allow more than one discipline to come together because we're smart. We're intelligent ones who wander, so we're creative. We're not the idiots who are dead sure. And really, we're also not the adaptive children who have emotional insecurity, immaturity. This is a real deal, not an insult. it's reactivity, yellow or red. The minute that you are getting in your head and ruminating, and you're breaking things down in a way of, that person, or that thing, in a way that's actually destructive, not constructive, you're leading with an emotion called anger, even if it's not anger, but it's because the outcome of what you are doing is hurt or breaking down. When your emotion, the basis is sadness or anxiety, because those are threat emotions, so they keep us safe. Anger keeps people safe. So does anxiety and sadness. So when sadness comes about, we don't think about a person in a way of, let me get back at you. No, we get sad. We have the sadness. We don't do it with human suffering because we're not ruminating. We're not in our temporal junction. We're in our prefrontal cortex. We know what has happened. We're in Dharma, by the way. We do likes and dislikes knowingly. Of course, I don't like if I'm going to have an argument with somebody. I love them, but I'm not going to shame, blame, fault, or in any way, shape, or form think of revenging. And you know how many people instead think of revenging? And they do spite, and in their brain, in the biochemistry of fear, thank you, Tara Brach, because that's what you're in when you're in rumination. And anger also has this thing of certainty. So as you're spitting venom in your brain, thinking about all the ways that whatever it is that's happening, which the movies, again, make look cool, people think, I'm unbreakable, I'm unstoppable, I'm struggling through another relationship, and here we go. Not little, least do they know that. Love, it's not struggle. Here, 5D mystics know this. So the people who are love buttons, what we know is that your heart, loyalty, devotion, consciousness, it's very straightforward. So if you're in a love cycle in your own body, it's because you got out of the shame, unbreaking or broken, heartbreak, all this stuff that therapists help people to move out of, or that a person who cares about treating other people with a tone that is moderate and getting passionate. Of course, we all get, I'm Neapolitan. You should see me get passionate. And sometimes I even have triggers, not often, but they happen. And when they do, I do say I'm sorry. Like my 2-year-old annoying tone, which still does come forth with my lovely mother and my twin. They definitely get the harsher, but that's because I grew up with them. It's not an excuse, it's the real deal. So your charged states, again, they stay charged, are implicit memory. The first 3 years of life, you have implicit memory. Then there's explicit. People who would learn about being a human would know this, which is where let's lead into second way. Functional adult relationships are fun because we do speak about our emotional triggers if we have addictions or compulsive behaviors, even in the absence of trauma-informed. 5D knows there's no evil, there's no devil, there's no demon, there's none of that. In fact, Sadhguru, thank you. You call it a demon, a divine, We're all the same ball of energy, broken up in a million pieces. If anyone is talking about mysticism at this point in their journey, and they don't yet understand the consciousness of one, and they still want to talk about energy vampires, dark auras, they obviously are going to stay within the 4D bandwidth. All bandwidths are equal, and all walks of life are necessary and important. No, they're all here. We're all life. We all contribute. It's a co-creative space. So as the 4D, 3D creates separation, 5D creates oneness. And we know it's one globe. No, it's not flat. We are okay with having flat earthers, though. We leave them alone, like we have museums that unteach or don't teach at all Darwinism. I mean, gotta say, when a country thinks they're advanced and you got a place that teaches no Darwinism, I'm wondering what's advanced again? Which one? Oh, that's right. Advanced is the level of humanity that we have. So we're in a great time. Humanity is moving forward and out of the blinders of thinking that evil lives in the body of somebody. What lives is trauma memory that comes up, especially during ascension moments. So for my 5D mystics and my functional adults and those lovely educators, let us come together supporting as Zen masters, because 5D mystics are also Zen masters. When we see non-disciples picking on the compulsive thief, we're going to go and step in and say, what are you doing? And we're going to help all the lives that want to expand their consciousness. The other ones, they have their group. And the law is here. There is a system, thank goodness. So creating mindful relationships is important to support people to actually genuinely heal from trauma, because they get to build safe haven, secure-based relationships with people who don't hide love. It's not a struggle. As Stephen Porges points out, you can only be in a state of love if you feel safe with each other. So let's create safe relationships, growing relationships, talk about trauma seriously and with compassion towards all, also knowing some people won't move out of it.